Jamie Dimon says there's a crack in the bond market, and I'm going to break down how this is going to skyrocket Bitcoin, XRP, and cryptocurrency. It's time to take a massive deep breath, become stoic, take the middle ground, and understand macro and micro economics. Today, I'm going to talk about the crack in the bond market, and I'm going to break down what I believe is going to happen. A re-monetization of debt, a revaluing of gold, and they are going to turn this printing machine on full blast. And the unsuspecting American public and people worldwide are going to have their currency devalued as the elites now are rushing into assets like Bitcoin. Remember, write down deflationary. Go study deflationary assets from an inflationary fiat system. I'm going to repeat this over and over and over again for financial literacy until we understand at a deep level in the American public that they're about to turn this printing machine on full blast because of the destroyed bond market. And I'm going to break down on the back end of this video exactly what I believe is going to happen and how I position myself in cash flow, not cash, into deflationary assets that grow every single year, how I protect my wealth, and how I converted 2 of my assets into leverage to be able to multiply my money like the richest man in Babylon. This is a critical time in human history where the American public can actually own the rails of the new financial sector as the public and private sector come together. There's only going to be 2 types of people. As Rosie Rio said, the freight train has left the building. I added this. You're going to go on the ride of your life, or you're going to get ran over by it, but everybody's going to be on it. And the 2 types of people are going to be people that own the technology and the people that are consumed by the technology. They'll be very, very, very wealthy and the working poor. So you right now have an opportunity to stop mindlessly scrolling on social media and get really focused, really stoic, not tribal in Bitcoin, not tribal in XRP, not tribal in meme coins, but become laser focused on God, family, protecting your ecosystem at all costs, and staying out of other men and women's business because you're too busy studying yours. So we need to understand how cash flow works and how to protect ourselves. So I'm going to show you 3 videos from Jamie Dimon. Okay, now Jamie Dimon is one of the biggest bankers in the world. Now, remember, when they tell you to look this way, there's a whole nother narrative going this way. Jamie Dimon keeps positioning that he hates Bitcoin. Jamie Dimon is part of the old left brain era, okay? Left industry. Okay, now he's going to retire at some point. A whole new regime is coming in. Then I'm going to break down at a deep level on what I believe is going to happen and how I position my family and became financially free by understanding how these systems work. So this was an interview they did with Jamie Dimon. He talks about a tectonic shift in the financial system. Get your pen and paper out. It's time to get educated.
And then I would ask you a really basic, straightforward question, and that is, what's your biggest worry right now?
So first of all, thrilled to be here. I'm glad you're doing this. I hope we may join the defense forum you guys do every year too. And look, the way I look at it, the big picture is the tectonic plates are shifting. We got to get our heads wrapped around that. Those tectonic plates are the geopolitics with these terrible wars, terrible proxy terrorist activity around the world, North Korea, the potential proliferation of nuclear weapons over time, which is the greatest threat to mankind. And then you have the other tectonic shift is the global economy. So the global military umbrella of America, and then the global economy, of which trade is a part. You know, the other parts are do people want to partner with you? Do you have your alliances? Do you have investment agreements? And all those various things, and they're changing. And then our debt, which you just heard a bunch of folks talk about eloquently, it's large, and it's not just us. We added $10 trillion in 5 years. We have, you had Reagan up there talking about deficits. The debt to GDP was 35%, and the deficit was 3.5%. Today, it's 100% debt to GDP net, and a deficit of almost 7%, highest peacetime ever. And
crazy. So you have to understand that. I met a lot of people this last week and still helping people understand this as we have these conversations. Everybody's so hyper-focused on XRP and Bitcoin. And what I understood is a lot of people don't understand what this means, this tectonic shift. Okay, we have more debt than we have income. The system has to change. And it's not this when people say, oh, there's going to be a flip of a switch, and there's no flip of a switch. This is something that is methodically being planned out and changing day by day. decision by decision, Genius Act, regulation, right? They know that we have to move from fiat fake because the system eventually will collapse. Okay, Jamie Dimon even talks about this. He says over the next 40 years, if we don't change this, the fiat system will collapse. So it's not, people think the US dollar is going to collapse tomorrow. No, they are going to, and I'm going to explain this at the back end. Make sure you make it all the way till the end. If you do, comment warrior. Okay, I'm going to explain to you what I believe they're going to do, and you are going to benefit greatly from this.
Going back to the Reagan years, you think bond vigilantes are back?
This is important. Pay attention.
You know, these are very large numbers. You've seen it a little bit. You know, you had the crack in the bond market in COVID a little bit. You know, the government did the right stuff, then they massively overdid both spending and QE. We borrowed and spent $10 trillion from 2020 to today. Okay, and you heard the numbers before. We also bought $4 trillion of your securities on top of the $4 trillion we bought in the first go round. Those numbers are true globally, not quite as big as ours, but the QE of us was 8 trillion. The QE of the rest of the world is another 8 trillion or something like that. You're talking about huge sums of money. We don't really know the full effect of that. And, you know, the bond dealers, which Gary mentioned, you know, inventories are much smaller than they used to be, partially because of rules and regulations. And you are going to see a crack in the bond market.
Boom. You are going to see a crack in the bond market. So how are they going to fix this? You're at 130% debt to income ratio. Most of the debt's held outside the United States. 30% of the debt's held outside the United States. And the two biggest debtors to us holding our treasuries are Japan and China. They could literally weaponize the bond market by dumping treasuries on us. Okay, so let's continue on. And then we're going to break all this down on how this can affect our portfolios and how we can gain a large amount of wealth for our families from this.
You know, I was saying we shouldn't be stockpiling Bitcoin. We should be stockpiling guns, bullets, tanks, planes, drones, you know, rare earths. We know what we need to do. This is not a mystery.
Did you say stockpiling Bitcoin?
No.
I said we shouldn't be stockpiling Bitcoin.
Oh, it shouldn't be.
We should
Okay.
be stockpiling bullets. You know,
Okay.
like, you know, the military guys tell you that, you know, if there's a war.
Remember, do the opposite. It says we shouldn't be stockpiling Bitcoin, but, you know, I'll let my clients buy and sell it now. I think it's used for money laundering, but I'll let my clients. He said, you know, one time he said, I don't agree with smoking, but I'll give people the right to smoke. It's like, okay. So remember, when they tell you to look this way, there's a whole nother narrative going on this way. Okay. So let's take a look at Scott, or excuse me, I want to have you listen to JD Vance. I got to hear him speak. They are passionate. Now, this is who's in the White House. They're making the decisions. They are passionate about crypto. Then we're going to listen. I'm going to read something about Scott Bessent, who is a new Treasury Secretary. They're going to turn this printing machine on full blast because the bond market is cracked. Okay. And this is going to make your crypto fly.
I'm an owner of Bitcoin here, but I'm also the vice president of the United States. So I want to be careful, but I think the core value proposition of cryptocurrency is that it's a way of transacting and a way of storing value in a modern digital age. Look, 100 years ago, if you wanted to go and buy something, you know, you put a dollar bill on the table, you put a gold coin on the table. The value proposition of Bitcoin is that it can serve the same function, but in a digital age, a way that's secure, that's safer from fraud, and allows people to buy and sell and store value, but in a way that's consistent with the modern technological age that we live in. Now, having said that, I fully accept there are risks to all of these things. There are always risks to new technologies. Our approach in the Trump administration is to say, you know, let people innovate, let people figure this stuff out on their own. If the critics of Bitcoin are right, I happen to think that they're wrong. That will eventually win out in the marketplace. If the advocates of Bitcoin are right, and I happen to agree with them, if they make their case, that's eventually going to win out in the marketplace. What you shouldn't have is a dictatorial government that tells certain industries they're not allowed to do what they need to do. You've got to let people make these decisions on their own, and that's sort of been our approach. We want common sense regulatory regimes. We want to allow the cryptocurrency industry to participate in the mainstream of the economy. But then ultimately, the laws of economics, the laws of supply and demand are going to make the determinations from there.
So use your logic. Why do you think Jamie Dimon, the largest banker in the world, that runs one of the largest banks in the world, okay, doesn't like Bitcoin? Guys, you're your own bank. I'm literally my own bank, which I'm going to break down on the back end of this video. I just borrowed from my Bitcoin at 14%. I bought an insurance firm, and I'm making 36% on my money. It was free money. It will be paid off in 10 months. We have 10 payments left. That's it. My insurance firm is already cash flowing. And I literally made 36% on my money. I didn't have to go to JP Morgan. That's why he doesn't like Bitcoin. You are your own bank. That's why they don't they're not going to talk about cryptocurrency and these things until the public has so much demand. Okay, you have a lot of growth. I still think we're going to have a bear market because, you know, Jackie explains the best, ahead of our crypto team, is there's still a fiat system. Until everything is tokenized, we're still going to have a bottom again, which I'm the opposite of everybody else. I am praying for it to collapse back down. I want more buying opportunity. I have conviction in my XRP. I have conviction in my Bitcoin, and I'm hoping in 2026 it collapses down like it did in 2022, because I want 4 more years to buy this stuff. I am not short term. I am long term. Okay, so this is where we go into Scott Bessent, who is a Treasury Secretary who makes these types of decisions for us. We go back to what Jamie Dimon said. Okay, he said, I don't know if it's going to be a crisis in 6 months or 6 years, and I'm hoping that we change both the trajectory of the debt and the ability of the market makers to make markets. That was Dimon. Okay, Jamie Dimon. Unfortunately, it may be that we need this to wake us up. Okay. And it says a blinding constraint or a backstop. Banks are the key buyers, this is important, of US Treasuries and serve as a broker dealer in the Treasury market, helping other investors buy and trade government bonds. So what's happening is in COVID, they put a bunch of rules on banks and it slowed down the bond market. Okay. Bessent hopes a capital rule reset will allow banks to add more treasuries to their balance sheet, thus giving the flood of supply. Now, remember, when they flood the system with cash, treasuries, and debt, this is all debt. What does smart money run to? Deflationary assets, fresh incremental buyers. He also hopes that making things easier for banks will reduce upward pressure on long-term treasury yields, another key goal for new administration. Okay, now let's jump into the quantum field. I got to hear Michael Saylor speak personally. Listen to his voice inflection, stoic, very calm, very smart man. And again, we have built a treasury at a very small level compared to what he's doing for our companies. We believe in Bitcoin. We believe in XRP. We built a treasury for our company. We store our profits in Bitcoin and XRP and dividend ETF strategies. One of our dividend ETF strategies is paying the rent in one of our buildings now. We have an asset paying for our rent. Eventually, our dividend ETF strategy will pay for our team members, our payroll, which is about $670,000 just for one of our businesses, right? Pay our rents, and then all of our profits can go into investable assets like Bitcoin and XRP. That's how you accelerate. And I do that at a personal level too. Okay, it's all deflationary. So let's listen. Let's go innovative now, and then I'm going to break down exactly what I believe the government's going to do and what I'm doing to protect my family.
It starts with the observation that Bitcoin is going to appreciate faster than every other asset because it is engineered to outperform. It's going to grow faster than the S&P. It's going to appreciate faster than gold. Sorry, Peter. I should say that again. It's going to go faster than gold.
Way faster.
Sorry, Peter.
Peter Schiff was there too. I thought that was kind of cool. Peter Schiff, I thought that was respectful. I thought he has some big balls, man. I mean, he just bashes Bitcoin. He had a booth at the Bitcoin conference. I like that style. He's like, I'm going right into the belly of the beast, man. He had a booth at the Bitcoin conference. And it was all love, man. Like, you know, we're big XRP people. It's all bullshit, this tribalism and people that talk shit online. Excuse my language. It's like, I saw a couple people that were personally talking shit about me online, and there was nothing to be said in person. It's like, just ignore all the noise and the tribalism. It's all noise, guys. It's all noise. It's all love all the time.
It's going to grow faster than real estate or collectibles or anything else you can imagine because it was engineered that way. And that leads us to our third way to wealth. If you're going to generate wealth,
Listen,
if you're going to get rich on Bitcoin, you're going to need courage. And courage means wealth favors those who embrace intelligent monetary risk.
boom, I'll leave it right there. So that's what I've been doing. I've been embracing, and I had the courage to follow intelligent monetary risk. Now, by following, that intelligent monetary risk, this is where you should have a pen and paper out, okay? Because I'm going to break down exactly what I'm doing. Now, I'm only ever going to tell you exactly what I'm doing, okay? I will never share with you anything I'm not doing. All the things I talk about are things I actually do or I own personally, okay? That's very important to me. So here's what I believe the government is going to do. This is just my belief system. Okay. You should do your own research. So I think what they're going to do is they have to turn the printing machine on. Okay. There's rumors that Jerome Powell is going to step down. I don't know if that's true, but at some point, either in June or July, they're going to have to lower rates, guys. They have to. Okay. Because the bond market is going to crack. The bond market. Okay. Let's just take it this way. Make it simple. Everything is debt. We're in a fiat system. So your income is my debt. My debt is your income. Let me say that one more time. Your income is my debt. Your debt is my income. We're in an enslavement system. You work 40 hours a week to get paid in debt. The wealthy don't do their money like you do. You spend, then save in a 401k that they tax you on the back end of your life. Wealthy people don't use 401ks. Wealthy people don't use Roth IRAs. We use insurance, deflationary assets. People get into real estate. They have businesses. They have trust. Very different model. Okay. So first, what they're going to do is they're going to lower interest rates and they're going to turn this printing machine on full blast, hence devaluing the US dollar. Okay. I believe, this is my belief, and we'll be able to come back and see if some of this comes true. I believe it's all going to come true. Is I think they're going to revalue gold. And I think that's how they're going to buy Bitcoin in a budget neutral way. They're not going to use our money or our taxes to buy Bitcoin. They're going to revalue gold. And I think they're going to take that and probably collateralize that, collateralize it and then buy more Bitcoin because you're collateralizing the revaluation of gold. It's just an accounting measure. And then you move that over into Bitcoin that grows 50% every year. That's crushing the S&P. That's beat every single market the last 10 years. So now you have the revaluation of gold, which brings in a lot of cash flow. It's going to brings in a lot of appreciation. You bring that appreciation into an asset that's going to grow 50% every year. It's going to be mined for another 116 years. That's it. 95% of the supply, 80% of the supply has not moved, and it'll be the most valuable asset in the world that will continue to grow over and over again. So now you're printing money like crazy. Okay. You're buying debt. You're rebalancing the balance sheet, and you bring the public and private sector together, and they're going to grow our way out of our economy. They're going to lower taxes. They're going to put more money in your pocket. And unfortunately, Americans and people worldwide are going to buy bigger flat screen TVs. They're going to buy nicer cars. They're going to go to hotels more. They're going to spend their investable income on stuff. Okay. The smart money, we're going to take our money. You're going to take your money and you're going to learn how to invest. That's how you get out of the trap. Okay. So here's how I did it. So let me break that down. I think they're going to revalue gold. I mean, how else would they do it in a budget neutral way? They're going to rebalance the balance sheet into Bitcoin. They're going to print the shit out of money. They're going to grow debt like crazy, but they're going to grow our way out of our economy. Trump is going to bring trillions of dollars into America. He's going to bring public and private sector together, probably privatize airports, privatize hospitals. It'd be amazing if they did that. And then we start to grow and the economy is going to boom, boom, boom. There's going to be an inflationary point at some point, and you want to be in deflationary assets. You can't just pump a bunch of liquidity in the market without inflation. At some point, something has to break. We're going to break at some point and move from a fiat system into an asset-backed digital currency type of way. They're going to rebalance the market and stabilize the market with stable coins. They're going to tokenize treasuries. Okay, that's what I believe is going to happen. So I'm positioning myself and my family to capture that wealth. Okay, so I focus on 4 things: cash flow, deflationary assets, assets that are deflationary. Okay, I don't focus on stocks. I'm focusing on cryptocurrency, and I'll explain why. Well, and I'll explain. I have a dividend ETF strategy. That's part of my cash flow. Okay. Number 3 is protection. So I make sure that I have things to protect, and I'll break all these down. Then leverage. Okay. So cash flow. So in the first bull run, I didn't buy Lambos, watches. I didn't increase my lifestyle. I still pretty much lived the same lifestyle. I kept my expenses very, very low, and I took all that extra cash flow or extra appreciation, and I built an ecosystem. So I built businesses, cash generating businesses. That was my first step. I increased my cash flow. Okay. So then the bear market collapsed and I had cash flow. So I didn't have to go from being wealthy to collapsing. I had cash flow to keep myself going, but I pumped that cash flow back into the market when it depreciated dramatically. So then my bag started to stack. I also found strategies like dividend ETF strategies where you get constant cash flow coming in. So I increased my cash flow. That should be your main focus: cash flow. Reduce expenses, debts and non-negotiables. I pumped them into deflationary assets. Let me explain that. I focus heavily, and I have other cryptocurrencies. My top cryptocurrencies are XRP, Bitcoin, Solana, would be, I always miss XLM and VChain are my top 5, and HBAR. Those are my top cryptos. Okay. I got my bags packed in the others, but every day I buy Bitcoin, XRP, because they're deflationary. So Bitcoin is like a bank. I'm never, ever selling it. Okay. That'll go into my leverage component. XRP is deflationary as well. It has a fixed supply. It burns every single time. I believe it's going to be one of the most valuable assets in the world. That's my conviction. That doesn't have to be yours, but that's mine. And it's changed my family's life. It's gone up 600% since 2020. Okay. So as everybody else stored their money in the US dollar, they lost 19% of the value because 19% inflation. My XRP grew by 600% and my Bitcoin grew by 195%. So I transmuted the US dollar into something that appreciated 600% deflationary, something that increased 195%. Okay. Now this bull run that's coming up on the back end, I will pull profits on altcoins. Let's put Bitcoin to the side because we're going to talk about leverage in just a moment. Okay. When it appreciates, I am going to pull profits from my altcoins and I'm going to stuff it into my cash value life insurance. Okay. I'm going to stuff it into more dividend ETF strategies to create more cash flow. Okay. I'm going to continue to, if I have the opportunity they come up to, I'll buy more cash generating businesses. Okay. And then I will continue to repeat that process. I will stuff money into DeFi. I hope we go into a bear market. I hope we go into a deep bear market. I want 4 more years of buying opportunity. And I'll stuff it in, stuff it in, stuff it in. And then I'll continue to max fund my insurance policies. Now let's go to leverage. I'll have 2 leverage components. I have an insurance bank, which is currently continuing to be stacked. My kids have insurance banks. I have insurance banks. My partner has insurance bank. Okay. So now we have a bank on this side, the insurance. We're growing money tax-free. We're able to pull it out tax-free at retirement. We're able to pass it down to our kids tax-free. Okay. Study tax code 77028. Then I have a Bitcoin bank and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I actually just practice this. Okay. I know this video is going longer, but I want to break this down exactly what I do. So recently I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. You can actually leverage your Bitcoin, something that goes up 50% every year. I'm a very simple-minded guy, right? I have a lot of logic and, I have people way smarter than me around me. So I went to my CFO and he's a financial whiz. And I said, okay, let me just think about this for just a moment. We had the opportunity to open up our own insurance firm. We were licensed insurance agents with an IMO. I wanted my own firm and I like to own my own things because I like to have the responsibility. So it's like, I want to get our own firm. Okay. So we figured out what it would cost to start our own firm. So I can go to my insurance bank and I go to my Bitcoin bank. I'm like, I want to practice this Bitcoin thing. I want to see what it's all about, right? So I went to SALT. This is not a paid advertisement. That's who I used, SALT. And I think you can do it on Coinbase now, but you have to be very responsible. I'm going to put a caveat on this because you got to be very responsible when you lend off your assets. And I'll explain why. Okay. So I went to SALT. I put whatever amount we needed because I was whatever amount to get 70% LTV to buy the firm. Okay. I'll keep that. That's personal. So I put that in there. I locked up the Bitcoin. I never sold my Bitcoin. So they gave me 70% LTV. 24 hours later, I had the cash in my bank account. I took the cash. I bought the firm. We have 10 more months paying that off. But here's the thing. I borrowed at 14% and Bitcoin grows 50% every year. I'm making 36% on my money. That's why Jamie Dimon hates Bitcoin. I don't need JP Morgan. I don't need Wells Fargo. So I buy Bitcoin every single day. I buy it when it dips. I buy XRP every day. I buy it when it dips. And I'm always buying the bottom of the future top. I don't chase candles. I don't chase them at all. I believe I'm buying the bottom of the future top. Okay. So that's exactly what I do. And that's how I created this financial freedom. I have cash flow coming in from all different places. Okay. I have my insurance protecting my family. If I die tomorrow, my family's good. The bills will be paid. They'll have plenty of income to survive. And I'm teaching my kids now the same pattern. My daughter's an investor. She has her insurance policy set up. My son already has his policy set up. He's growing wealth and he's 9 years old. He's already building wealth. The next 4 or 5 years, he'll be in the high 5 figures as a 12-year-old. This is what we need to do. And that's the opportunity we have as humanity right now. Remember, guys, I lost everything. I was broke on my parents' couch. They took away my ability to feed my family because of the pandemic. They shut my business down. And I said, this will never happen to me again. No man or woman will ever take away my ability to take care of my family. And I got serious and I got disciplined and I built a pattern and I stuck with it. And I have conviction. You can't FUD me out of Bitcoin. You can't FUD me out of XRP because most people talking shit ain't doing shit. That's the truth. I'll be bold around that. Most people talking shit ain't doing shit. The louder they are, the less they're doing. It's the people who are silent. It's the people who are focused. It's the people who are disciplined that are making an impact. And I know that's you. So it's time to get our shit together. It's time to rise up as warriors. And it's time to protect our family. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. If you need any support at all, if you click my social media platform, if you're watching on social media, you can join our 3T Warrior Academy, 11,400 strong since 2020. We have live calls, market calls, community calls. It's the best community in the world. If you need help from my licensed elite team of insurance agents to help you understand cash value life insurance, very important that these are funded properly, that they're set up properly, and you actually have people that are using them properly, like my agents. You can sit down with my agents for a free consultation. That's in the description of this video or in my social media platform. We got your back. I love you guys. Warriors, rise, get your shit together. Let's go.